Now let's play with some paints. It's time to explore watercolors and acrylics, the most commonly used paints in mixed media. And there's a huge difference between them, but they're both really easy to use. So let's start. First of all, acrylics. I've prepared this page on which I can test. This has not been covered with gesso because for acrylics you never have to cover any paper with gesso because acrylic is almost like gesso. It has very little water, it sticks to everything. There are two main kinds of acrylics that you need to know. Acrylics always come in tubes, different brands, but they can be either thick, which is called heavy body, and as you can see on my palette, they are really thick. Right? They're buttery. Or they can be thin, more runny, and usually they are called fluid. And here's an example, the same color, but completely different consistency. So as with gesso, thinner paint will be easier to spread and cover large surfaces with, and thicker will give you a little bit of texture. I tend to choose heavy body, thick acrylic paints, but it is down to personal preference. But let me quickly show you that difference. So this is liquid paint, fluid, right? Very easy to spread. And this is the same color, but heavy body, thick. So I've loaded my brush quite generously, and you can straight away apply larger amount of paint when it's thick onto your paper because it kind of stays there, right? Fluid can be spread easier and almost stretched out. Right. Now the other difference between different acrylic paints is that some of them will be opaque and others will be transparent, almost see-through. And that is not down to the quality of paint or the manufacturer, as I think it's a common misconception. It's down to the pigments. Some pigments will naturally create transparent paint. So it's really hard to get a red, for example, that is opaque. Let me show you this difference, how it's indicated on the tube. So this is almost a very similar color, right? Transparent yellow iron oxide and yellow ochre. But on the packaging, we have it indicated that this one is see-through and this one is more opaque. So let's test it. This is yellow ochre, and you see how it covers all the writing and even the dark paper. And now I'll wash my brush, and transparent yellow oxide, which is also thick paint, but it's much more see-through, right? Doesn't matter how much I apply, it will be always see-through. Darker and lighter paper, the same. And you can make the most of both qualities. It doesn't mean the paint is worse or better. It's just you're gonna get a different result. Now let's move on to watercolors. Watercolors come in two formats. They are either in tubes or in pans or half pans. Half pans are dry, so you need to add a drop of clean water to activate that color. Wait a few moments for it to soak in and you'll be ready to paint. With tubes, all you need to do is to squeeze a little bit of paint out onto your palette, maybe drop a little bit of clean water, mix it in, and you're ready to go. The advantage of tubes is that the color is very intense and you can get large quantities of colors on your brush and on your page pretty quickly. With pans, the advantage is that you can close the tin and you can take them when you're out and about, when you're traveling. They are always ready to activate. The colors will be intense if you buy high quality pans, but with lower quality, cheaper pans, the colors can be a little bit, not as intense. But one thing about watercolors is that they are always transparent, always see-through. They are never opaque. As you can see, they take longer to dry and you need water to work with them, but they're beautiful. And I think both of these paints work wonderfully together with mixed media. So let's flip the page and let's try both of these together. I'm going to apply patches of white and clear gesso in random places on my spread. This is so we can have some variation in the texture and how watercolors sit on it and look on it, because they will absorb a little bit into our paper. They will sit on the surface of gesso. So we'll get two different looks and we'll get to play with two different effects. Now, if you're wondering what brushes should you use for which paints, don't overthink it. Choose a craft set of brushes that are meant to be used with all sorts of paints. Yes, you could invest in sable bristle brush, perfect for watercolor fine artists, but you don't need to. Just get a craft set that will be good for both kinds of paints, will shift your acrylic paint beautifully, and it will help you create beautiful washes with watercolors. I own a set of watercolor brushes, though they're not very expensive, but I tend to use Pro Arte Polar nylon brushes, white nylon. They are good for watercolors, good for acrylics. The most important is that you always clean them and keep them dry. My gesso is now dry. Let's start painting. I always have a cleanish rag on my desk, so when I dip my brush in water, I can pat it on my dry rag a little bit just to get rid of the excess water, and then it's ready to dip in watercolor or in acrylic. I'm gonna start with some big bold patches of acrylics, because that's what acrylics are really good for. So I have this beautiful red here, and I'm just going for it. It's so lovely to be painting freely with acrylics. The paint spreads beautifully, it's buttery, or a bit more creamy if you're using the fluid version. So I'm going to put two bold abstract patches of color in two places. And just a little note here, repetition, right? So I'm using the same color at least twice. And also the color palette. As you can see, I looked at my color wheel before I squeezed my paints out. We have this orange, very reddish orange, and a little bit of pink, which is a version of that red. Now, I will use the same color, but with quite a lot of water in it. So you can mix acrylic paint with water quite successfully, and you will get a more transparent version of it. And if you're working on white paper, you will get a lighter color too. That's still quite a lot of paint, but as you can see, I'm straight away getting a pink. So I'm gonna put a patch of that pink into places. And can you see our gesso? So that brings interest straight away. Acrylic paint, when it's watered down, will look different on a surface that's been gessoed and not gessoed. So that's so exciting. Now let's bring some watercolors to it. I have these gorgeous oranges and yellows. So I am going to put it straight onto dry paper. My brush was clean and wet, and then I dip it in my watercolor paint and my paper is completely dry. I apply another abstract shape somewhere on my spread. Now it can touch or overlap the other colors. Watercolors, if the acrylic is not perfectly dry, they will mix with watercolors. They will pick some of that color up, and that can be very exciting. But if you don't want this to happen, let your acrylic dry first. And the watercolors are so relaxing. They're extremely satisfying to apply. So that's applying watercolors onto dry paper. Now let's create a pool of clean water on our paper. There's quite a lot of water here. I'm gonna dry my brush, dip it in condensed, intense watercolor, and gently dab it onto that wet pool. So that's one color. And now clean my brush again, dry it, and another color onto the other half of the pool of water, and they start mixing together. And I can now, and this is very exciting, grab my silicone brush or like an old credit card and kind of swirl it. And I'm going to do the same on the other side of my page. So clean water and pools of color. Now, depending on the size of a brush you'll use, you'll get different marks and different effects. Now, this is a small brush. I'm gonna dip it in a little bit of this pink, and you can see that straight away I can make some smaller marks. And that is a fantastic little practice here. Creating lots of small marks with your brush. This is very relaxing. It's quite meditative, it's repetitive, it's a little bit like knitting, and I love doing that. And it also requires patience, which that's not my strong quality. So it's a fantastic exercise for people like me. So let's fill one of these big bold shapes with little marks of opaque acrylic paint. And remember, repetition, so we're making the same mark on the other side of our spread. I'm going to add some more watercolors, so I'm wetting another area, and I'm going to put a little bit of this beautiful orange on here. And I'm gonna spread it with an old credit card or a silicone brush, because I love that random look that this allows me. And I can shift some of that paint with wet brush. I can go back in. And now maybe a little bit more pink. With paints, it's always about going back and forth, taking a step back, seeing what else you want to add. We're not following any rules besides repetition and color palette. And this is very abstract, and it can mean something to you, or maybe it doesn't mean anything and you're just playing. Either way, it's absolutely fine and good. If you choose different colors to me and you make different marks and you place your patches of color in different places, you will have a completely different result, and that is so good. Now, looking at this, I feel like I want to add a little bit of contrast. So you know what I should do? I should look at my color wheel, find my colors, and see what's on the opposite side of the color wheel, and that is either blue-green or green. I think I'm gonna go for a little bit of that green. I have it already on my palette. Let's see how that's going to work. I will add this with a small brush first to see if it's any good. Yes, that works really well. I like that. So I will add a few of these very fluid marks with a small brush just to bring a little bit of energy to that piece. As you can see, I've added lots more marks. I played with scales, so some of them are smaller and some of them are larger, but the shape is usually similar. I ended up adding quite a bit of green. It worked well, and I really, really enjoyed it. So that was basic mark making with acrylics and watercolors using a brush, but there are many more tools that you could use for it to get different results. So let's play with that.